and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
On Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Ion Dependency right here on I95.5 FM, live on the Ion Dependency Facebook page. That's EYE on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and a good morning to our special guest, Noah Church, out there in the USA. But before we bring him in and start our conversation on what we have been hearing is a very interesting topic this morning. Garth, you wanted to share?
Yeah, folks, our independency, what we focus on. And from time to time, we would have someone with a biography that fits right into our independency. And this morning, we are dealing with dependency to pornography. Now, there are a number of people out there who are silently suffering, and it's not like a crack addict who can end up on the street and you would see that deterioration from rapid deterioration, but that's someone who locks themselves in a room or office or car and would just have their fill of pornography and could never get enough. And it extends to a rocky relationship with a partner and how to hold on to that relationship while addicted to pornography. So this morning, and Natasha will share with you now what was, in case you forgot. And we have Mr. Church up on video. He's ready to speak with us. And the irony of his name says it all. He's Noah Church. And those of you just coming from church, and we thank you all for praying for the nation. But this morning we have something to try to help a problem that we have. And Natasha will share with you now what was discovered by Google about Trinidad and Tobago.
Right, so this Loop News article from 2019, the headline is TNT tops Google Trends in search for free porn. Trinidad and Tobago has topped the search for free porn over the past 12 months on Google Trends. According to Google Trends, Trinidad and Tobago placed first in the search for the phrase free porn, above the United Kingdom, India, and the US. The top 10 regions which ranked highest for this search were Point Fortin, Penal Debe, Princestown, Cuva Tabaqui, Talparo, Chaguanas, Rio Claro Mayaro, Sangre Grande, Siparia, Western Tobago, and San Juan Lavantil. Those are communities in Trinidad and Tobago. Cuva was the top city to run a search for the phrase, with Arima placing second and San Fernando third. In second place for the search phase, free porn was Ethiopia, while South Africa placed third. Fourth place was taken by Nepal, while the UK took fifth place. The country was also first in the search for the word doubles, and third in the search for the word roti, as just to compare in terms of the the terms that are used, those were some of the top terms as well, search terms that included the words Trinidad and or Tobago.
Oh, wow. So, folks, that's what we're going to deal with today. And we have someone who is actually a recovering porn addict. He will speak with us. We go to a break, and when we come, you'll hear more. As I said, he's joined us already via video. So he's going to tell you about his life as a porn addict and what he did to recover and is in recovery today. He'll tell us all about that when we come back. Stay right there.
Some of us like to play games of chance, but remember, gaming should be fun, so don't get carried away. Play for a prize, but don't pay the price. Play for fun, but never for keeps. Play smart, but never play all. Winning isn't everything. If you or someone you know needs help, call our gambling addiction hotlines. Rebirth House 24-hour hotline 466-3146 or Serenity Place Empowerment Center for Women 794-7980. An initiative of NLCB and Eye on Dependency.
What if you can make a difference in the life of a child by simply taking one step? This November, let's shine once more at Guardian Group's Shine Charity 5K and 10K Walk and Run. And together, we can help secure hope for children most in need. Join us on Saturday, 26 November, Nelson Mandela Park. Race time, 4:25 p.m. Register now at www.runtoshine.com. And together, let's shine. Guardian Group. Live easy.
Hey, Cappy, talk to you now, boy. I got a small work for you to do. Make a quick 10 G's. What you gonna do for me?
10 G's? What's that how I do there, boy?
What you doing? Taking your boat, run up the islands, pick up some people and then bring them back here for me. That's all you have to do.
That's sounding like human trafficking, boy. That's a serious crime. I can't make that.
Trafficking in human beings is a serious violation of a person's human rights. It violates a person's right to freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and freedom of identity. It is a heinous crime which affects local, regional, and international peace and security. A victim of human trafficking is subjected to many types of abuse. The crime destroys a person's dignity and self-worth. Victims often feel hopeless, are suicidal, and are stigmatized in their communities. Child victims are deprived of their rights to education, play, and social interactions. They're essentially robbed of their childhood, and that can never be regained once those years have passed. If we do little or nothing to fight against human trafficking in our country, we can face economic sanctions from international agencies and partners. Our country will be losing money. Doing little or nothing to fight against human trafficking will tarnish our country's international image and, most of all, the value we place on human life. Human trafficking is no respecter of persons. Anyone can be a victim. So let us all strive to safeguard human life and dignity in Trinidad and Tobago.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you for joining us and thank you for staying with us. And you know someone, there's no shame in it, folks. You know someone, your son, husband, wife, Every time you walk in the room, they click the computer and switch the page, and always stealing a chance to look at porn. They're up late in the night. Let them know Noah is here this morning to help them with their problem. So his name is Noah Church. He helps people overcome porn-related problems because he experienced it himself. He's not religious, and he's not in this for political reasons. He just wants to be healthy and happy. So who is he? Noah is a recovered porn addict that once found himself in the same trap that millions of men have unknowingly walked into, feeling as if the urges to watch porn were holding a gun to his head and his willpower was rendered useless. Looking into the disappointed and confused eyes of his partner as he put out another dud performance in bed, an ability to focus on any task as life passed him by. Chronic procrastination. He ran the digital comforts of porn and video games at every chance. Having his confidence ripped away and self-esteem buried as he fell down a rabbit hole of extreme fetishes, sexual dysfunctions, and dopamine overloads that left him unable to make eye contact with people. His story and work as a porn recovery and addiction specialist has been featured across platforms such as Vice, The Mel Robbins Show, Rolling Stone, and Time magazine. For the past 8 years, he has been able to help hundreds of men successfully rewire their brains' dependency on porn, naturally reverse any porn-induced sexual dysfunctions they were burdened with, and reclaim the fulfilling lives they were meant to live. He also published a book called Whack, Addicted to Internet Porn. Good morning, Noah Church.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha. Thank you for having me here. And hello to Trinidad and Tobago.
And thank you very much for agreeing to spend time with us this morning. For a little while, we know you have to run off to a meeting at 12, so we'll try to keep it real tight. And, of course, folks, Noah has hundreds of pages on YouTube after the program. You can visit him, and you will get more in depth of his knowledge of this situation. And so after the program, Noah will tell us what his YouTube page is and where you could find him. Noah and Natasha is here with me as a woman. We'll find out if women have this problem as well.
I'm sure they do. I wouldn't doubt it. But Noah, you can start by telling us how this all started for you in terms of your youth. Is there some behavior that you recognized in your youth that led you down this path?
And tell us about family too, growing up home, mother, father, brother, sister, all of those things. You can start there.
Yeah, I grew up with, in retrospect, I think a relatively healthy childhood. And I had a mother and father both in the home, and they're still together today. I had one sister who was older, and I was always interested, as most young boys are, in the opposite sex. And it was, I believe I was 9 years old when I first had the idea myself to search the internet for pictures of pretty ladies. And that is what I found. And of course, as anyone who's made that search before knows, I found much more than what I was expecting to as well. And we know that the average age of first exposure to porn is 11 years old. And this might be a peer showing the child pornography. It might be the child finding their parents' stash of pornography, or it might be them just being curious and searching out on the internet or accidentally finding something on the internet. In my case, I was 9, and it was intentional, even though I didn't know what pornography was. I was searching for content. I was searching for images of women. And that opened up a Pandora's box, so to speak, for me. And from the first sight of that, it was a rush, and it was something that I wanted more and more of. And I would sneak back and use any opportunity I could to see more online sexual content.
No, let's go back a bit to the school.
Yeah.
Did you have a crush on any teacher going to school, or you and the boys did ever have a crush on? Sometimes it starts there too, right? Having that crush on that really, hot teacher?
I had crushes on fellow students and maybe occasionally a little crush on a teacher. But yeah, I never remember a time in my life when I wasn't interested in girls and women.
And
That answers the question.
did you experiment? What about masturbation? Or did that play a part as well?
Yeah, I had actually, some people that I work with, and I tend to hear a lot of these stories because we get deep, in the sessions with my clients. And some people don't really develop a sexuality or start to experiment with sexual self-touch and masturbation until puberty. But others start very young, and if you ask any preschool teacher, they'll tell you, yes, they see little kids touching themselves and experimenting that way sexually. And that's how it was for me. I had masturbated since I can remember, but it wasn't really a problem or wasn't an overbearing place in my life. It didn't start getting in the way of my relationships or my pursuits until pornography came into the picture.
Was there ever a point at which in your early teens did that your parents or sibling would have got a clue as to what was happening behind closed doors?
Yeah, I was caught once, and I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and I clammed up. I was ashamed and embarrassed and didn't want to talk about it, and I basically just shut my mouth and isolated myself until the subject passed under the bridge, and we never really talked about it again. But that didn't stop me using. And when I got a computer in my room with an internet connection, by the time I was maybe 11 or 12, that's when it really ramped up. And it wasn't that long before I had really escalated in what I was seeking out. And as a radio show about dependency and addiction, I'm sure tolerance and escalation are topics that you speak about. And
of course. Do you think alcohol, in your opinion, is that when you were caught at 11, do you think for parents listening, is that a good time to have the conversation? Is that a good place at which to intervene? And how can that intervention be made to not be traumatic, to deal with those issues of shame and so on that you mentioned?
Well, if that's the situation that a parent is in now, where, I just caught my child consuming pornography, then yes, now would be the best time to talk about it. But if you're not there yet, then I recommend starting that conversation much younger. And there are ways that you can do it that don't go into all the details, but that start preparing that child for the dangers that they inevitably will be facing online. And we do the same thing with things like cigarettes or alcohol. And yet the average age of first use of cigarettes or alcohol is much higher than 11. So we have to start talking to our kids about pornography much earlier. And there are resources out there that can help parents with this. There's a children's book, for example, called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, that can start to introduce that topic at a very young age.
Now, if you're just joining us, folks, you're listening to Dependency, and I see you, especially on our YouTube channel. We thank you for joining us. And please remember, while you're there, to like and subscribe. Click on that button so that when we go live, you will know. And we are speaking with Mr. Noah Church. And before we get into his journey, we're just touching on some of the areas, like that's really interesting, what he said, being caught at 11. Now, did you, as from our research, Noah, sometimes we found that this addiction is passed on from one generation to the next. Like you have a grandfather who was an alcoholic, and the father could become one, and then a son or a daughter in the mix there. As far as you can remember, any member of your family was ever addicted to porn as well?
Not to my knowledge. And yet I do see that often in my clients. A lot of my clients have another family member, usually a father, who is also using pornography. And often that's what their first exposure is that they discover the stash of a parent. And that's, especially when that happens very young, it leaves a powerful impression. And we know that the younger someone is exposed to anything that can be addictive or become compulsive, the greater risk they're at. If I started smoking cigarettes now at 33 years old, well, I know that I wouldn't be able to start because I can't stand the feeling. But if I force myself to, it probably wouldn't become as much of a habit or cause as many problems as if I'd started at age 7.
Right. Now, were you also were you want to look for the magazines and newspapers that has bikini clad women, and was that part of the journey?
If I saw an image like that in the checkout aisle of the store, then yeah, I would be looking at it. But it really wasn't a very big part of my own journey because I was among the first generation to grow up with internet in the home. And I was used to using the computer. I was used to making internet searches. And so when I got the idea to start seeking out sexual imagery, that was the first resort that I went to. And now it's even more that way for young people growing up today with smartphones and with easy access to the internet almost anywhere that they go.
Yes, indeed. I think this problem is perhaps, well, definitely exacerbated by the access to technology and the fact that pornography is so widely accessible to anybody, far less for children. But as you were in your teens and exploring the dark parts of the internet, how did that impact on your first actual in-person sexual encounter? Or did that
it had a huge impact. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, I had started to escalate and my tolerance had grown, which means that I was using it enough that my sensitivity was dropping. And the same images, which at first could have just been pretty ladies in swimsuits, would have gotten me very excited. Now didn't make me feel very much. So I would seek out more and more explicit or extreme content online. And by the time I was 18 and in a relationship and felt like I was in love and ready to have sex, and my partner felt the same, I was so desensitized that just being alone in a bed with someone I loved and was attracted to wasn't enough to actually cause my brain to feel sexual arousal. And I wasn't able to gain arousal or to maintain arousal, and my body just was at a complete disconnect with my mind and what my heart and mind wanted. And I was confused, I was distraught, I didn't understand what was happening because this was an experience that I had been looking forward to my entire life, and here I was unable to act on it now that I was here in the moment. And I didn't yet make the connection between my pornography habits and my lack of ability to have sex. And we tried, many times, and I thought, okay, maybe it's just that I masturbate too much. I'll give it a break for a couple of weeks. But that didn't seem to have an impact. And what I didn't understand at that point is that I had what we now know as porn-induced erectile dysfunction, where someone becomes sexually conditioned to a screen and desensitized by overuse of pornography to the point that their body just no longer gets aroused or maintains arousal with the real partner. And it can take many months, actually, of abstaining from pornography and masturbation in order to heal from that, which I didn't understand and didn't act on until I was 24.
No, Noah, wow. One would think that you're seeing all of these sexy images, you're looking at these, these videos, that should actually prepare someone to get in bed. I mean, you can't wait. You shouldn't be able to wait to get in bed because what you see is what you want to try and act out. But here it is now. You saying that it causes it actually in the reverse is the opposite effect. And how is that really?
Well, what you just said made me imagine like how an appetizer is supposed to pique your appetite for the rest of the meal. But if you've been binging on appetizers for years, you're not going to want the rest of the meal. And pornography is not something that can very well prepare someone for a real intimate sexual experience, especially the kind of pornography that's common on the internet now. It's pornography that largely does not just depict loving intimacy between two parts of a couple or two spouses. It's extreme, and it's made for the camera, and it's made for people who, like me, are desensitized to more vanilla sexual content and are looking for something extreme. So now a young person who goes onto a streaming porn website is going to find extreme content where abuse is highly featured, violent sex acts are featured, group sex, all sorts of things that are going to be toxic if they try to what they're seeing online into a new budding relationship. And that's what we're seeing with young people. Even those who do not look at porn are affected by this because the partners that they're with have probably been looking at porn for years at this point and are expecting these kinds of extreme sex acts out of real intimacy, which is just, it's just not healthy.
No.
Yeah, I love that analogy that you use in terms of the appetizer and the main course, because Garth and I had a similar experience very recently in terms of the meal I'm talking about. Because in terms
you get me worried there.
So you're out at a restaurant and
yes.
and we filled up our bellies with a lot of the bread, right? We asked for more bread. By the time we had our appetizers, soup for me and a salad for him, by the time the main course got there, we were totally full. We could not eat all of it. And I think that's a really good analogy for the use of pornography and actually, as Garth was mentioning, playing it out in real life, that you really don't have the appetite when you have a real person in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, of course, traumatic, to be in that situation and feel disconnected from your own body and feel broken and not know what's going on.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was years later that I finally realized what was at the root of my issues. And that was after many broken relationships, many, nights of feeling ashamed or angry at myself or confused. And it was finally a TED Talk that opened my eyes. It was a TED Talk called The Great Porn Experiment, where Gary Wilson, whose website is yourbrainonporn.com, he described this effect that was happening to so many young men and how they were going onto the internet and saying, what's going on with me? What's wrong with me? And finding that what they all had in common was years of use of internet porn. And it doesn't have to be internet porn. People had problems with pornography and probably had porn-induced erectile dysfunction before the internet even existed. But internet provides unlimited access to an unlimited variety of sexual content. There's never an end to it. And where before there were barriers like going to a shop and purchasing content or going to a movie theater and just watching a movie, this was barriers to just binging. Now there are no barriers. Someone can, with very little money or risk, just stay at home with a device and binge as much as they possibly can.
No, Noah, and thank you for joining us, folks. You're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Noah Church, who's out there in, what's your location again, Noah?
I'm in Portland, Oregon, in the USA.
Right.
So and it's very early where you are, so thanks again.
Yes, thank you very much for spending the time.
The sun's been rising as we've been talking.
And if remember, folks, you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel so that you can, and click on that button so that you can get notified when we're on air. Thank you for joining us also on Facebook and on I-95.5 FM. We are speaking with Noah Church, who is speaking about his addiction and his recovery from porn addiction. Now, Noah, before we get into to that part of you,
nuclear blast.
Yes, your nuclear blast, what caused you to really realize you had a problem? We have, it's always a journey. So you started with one girlfriend. How many girlfriends? I mean, you're a good-looking brother, right? And you shouldn't have any problem with picking up girls. You shouldn't have no problem at all. But yet here it is, you were addicted to pornography. So how many girlfriends you had to go through, and what were some of the experiences for those who are listening? And what we call the signs and symptoms. Give us some of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, once I was together with that girlfriend in high school for about half of a year. And what led to the end of that relationship was me just feeling bad every time I was around her, because being around her made me think of this brokenness that I felt inside of me. And I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to talk about it. So it just sucked all the joy out of that relationship. And I thought, maybe this is my body telling me this isn't the right relationship. Maybe it would work with someone else. So I ended that relationship, and I hurt her. And I've since spoken with her and told her about what I learned and apologized. But I repeated that cycle maybe 6 or 8 times throughout college with other women. And just getting to that point where we were trying to have sex, it wouldn't work. I wouldn't know how to handle it, how to talk about it, because I didn't know what was going on. And it would end. And eventually I got to the point where I stopped pursuing relationships altogether, because I was tired of that cycle. I was tired of feeling broken, and I just wanted to focus on enjoying my life as much as possible. And eventually I found out what was really going on once I was ready to face what I'd done to myself. And I think in part I knew in the back of my mind for a while that pornography use had a big part to play in my problem, but I was in denial because, as I realized later, I was addicted to it, and I didn't want to see how much it had harmed me because I was dependent on it.
So take us through that journey now. What are some of the times that you would stop? Would you be driving home and then put a side on the shoulder and look at porn, or would you stay up late at night and get up late for work and call in sick? And how did that journey go?
Yeah, in high school, it was probably most days after school, an hour or two, maybe 3 hours on a big night. In college, it got lesser because I lived with a roommate and had less opportunity. But after college, it increased again. It never got to the point where, I was watching while driving, literally while driving, which I have spoken with guys who have gotten to that point and are endangering themselves and others. It never got to the point where I was unable to hold a job or to function. I was a functional addict, meaning I could keep my life from falling apart while still using. But I was certainly held back from my potential and held back from having a relationship and truly being happy with how my life was. And for others, I've spoken with men who might use pornography 10 times in a day or up to like 12 hours in a day, really binging and throwing themselves into it. And we can do that because of the illusion of novelty that pornography provides. And novelty is something that we're biologically wired to be excited by, whether it's sexual or otherwise. If there's a new food that you haven't tried that seems appealing, you're going to be excited about it. If you meet someone new and you feel a spark between you and you're attracted to them, you're going to be excited. Maybe it's, more excited or a different sort of excitement than you will be after being with them for 3 years. And pornography gives you this illusion that there's unlimited novelty, that there's all these attractive people who are ready to sleep with you. But of course, it is an illusion. It's really the same experience again and again of sitting alone with a device, touching yourself while looking at pixels on a screen.
Was there ever a time in your young adulthood where you related to or bonded with other young men on this topic? Had any conversations about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Pornography was sometimes something we would discuss in my peer group in college or high school, but it was always in a joking manner. It was never a serious discussion of, hey, is this good or is this possibly harmful? Those weren't discussions that I was ever lucky enough to be a part of until I started those discussions after learning what was going on and started telling all my friends about, hey, you should be aware of this. This happened to me. And once I started speaking out and starting those conversations, I had a lot of friends or people reach out to me and say, hey, I haven't spoken to you in a couple of years, but I saw you were talking about this on Facebook, and I just wanted to say, I deal with this too. Maybe you can answer some questions. There are a lot of people out there who are struggling with this who you would never know because most of them don't talk about it. And if they do talk about it, it's in a joking way and not a serious one. At least that's my experience. And it's easier to hide than something like alcoholism. Most people can tell if you're drunk all the time. But if you just use porn, 5 minutes ago, most people won't be able to tell. So it's easier to hide, and it's easier to maintain functionality in your life. But
well, no, Noah, you know, there was some things we said about people, chronic masturbators, that you know, we had a joke. They say that hair would grow out of your right palm after a time, because, you know, and that was, we know that didn't happen, but, you know, it was it was amazing that there are people who confess to masturbating to porn at least 10 times a day. And there's a message from one of our friends and ardent followers on Facebook. She said, there's someone who's addicted to pornography. He listened to I-95 all morning and has now turned off his radio to listening to pornography addiction. He's a friend, a husband, and he's a friend's husband, and he told her he cannot heal listening to this program. He's in denial, right?
Absolutely.
Well, from what you said, it sounds like he recognizes he has a problem, but just believes that it's something he cannot overcome.
Right.
Yeah, as long as you believe that, that will be true. If you believe that you cannot change, then you will not change. But trust me, change is possible. And you know, once I fully realized what I had done to myself, I swore never to use porn again. But that only lasted about 7 or 8 months, and I ended up relapsing. You know, despite knowing how it had broken so many of my relationships, how I had sworn never to use it again, I ended up going back to it, and that's because I was addicted, and I had underestimated the strength of my addiction and the call that it had on me. And it took me about another year of struggling back and forth to really learn what I needed in order to live permanently.
Stick a pin right there, Noah. Stick a pin right there, because it's always you know, we love to let people know that relapse comes with recovery.
Exactly.
So you're gonna tell us how long you stayed clean, and then what caused you to relapse, and how did you recognize that? All right, so let's go to a quick break, folks. You're listening to Dependency right here on I-95.5 FM, and if you're addicted to porn, don't do like that guy and stay in denial. Listen to the program. If you really need help, and you know someone who really needs help, if you know your boyfriend, husband, call them, wake them up, let them know that there is help for this situation, because it can be destructive. Stay right there. We'll be back.
The sex trafficking is a serious thing, in a way.
Sex trafficking? I thought it was only human trafficking it have.
But what do you mean?
No serious thing, boy. Where you get that from? I know about human trafficking, not about sex trafficking.
So how can you spot and identify perpetrators and children who are victims of trafficking? Many victims who are children do not look like under 18 years old. Child victims often move escorted around alone or in small groups. They also live in shared and even packed rooms and have very little clothing and belongings. Child victims are often seen with adults who are not their parents, their relatives, or their caregivers. Migrant children are often unaccompanied and separated from their parents. Child victims are often engaged in work that is not suitable for children. They are often deprived of their freedom to go to school, to play, and to enjoy being a child. Perpetrators have unexplained sources of income and possessions. They are businessmen and businesswomen running legitimate and illegitimate businesses. Perpetrators may appear to be the victim's friend, boyfriend, close relative, or employer.
We are the counter-trafficking unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Some of us like to play games of chance, but remember, gaming should be fun, so don't get carried away. Play for a prize, but don't pay the price. Play for fun, but never for keeps. Play smart, but never play all. Winning isn't everything. If you or someone you know needs help, call our gambling addiction hotlines. Rebirth House 24-hour hotline 466-3146 or Serenity Place Empowerment Center for Women, 794-7980, an initiative of NLCB and Eye on Dependency.
What if you can make a difference in the life of a child by simply taking one step? This November, let's shine once more at Guardian Group's Shine Charity 5K and 10K Walk and Run. And together, we can help secure hope for children most in need. Join us on Saturday, 26 November, Nelson Mandela Park. Race time, 4:25 p.m. Register now at www.runtoshine.com. And together, let's shine. Guardian Group. Live easy.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and thank you for tuning in if you're listening on I-95.5 FM or via the live streams on Facebook or YouTube.
And remember, while you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click on that button so you'll get notified every time we go on air. We are speaking with Mr. Noah Church, who is a recovering porn addict. And so Noah, and he joined us via video from Oregon. And thank you for giving us of your time this morning and trying to help those out there who need help. And just a correction, and it did suggest that he can be healed by listening to the program. That's what the text should have read. And I hope he has turned back on his radio. There's nothing to fear unless you're still in denial and don't want to give it up. Now, Noah, you recognized that you had a problem. What made you recognize that at first? Let's start with that.
Well, it took someone, as I said, a TED Talk that I watched called The Great Porn Experiment, clearly laying out for me exactly how long-term pornography use can cause addiction and sexual dysfunction and many other life impacts that we haven't talked about yet. But it can affect your motivation and your ambition and your ability to focus and your ability to fully feel the emotional experience of life. And I recognized every single thing that he was talking about in that TED Talk as applying to me. And I knew that I'd been regularly using porn since a young age. And so making that connection was what finally made it clear enough that I could no longer live in denial, that pornography was simply incompatible with the kind of life that I wanted. And that's when I decided never again. And of course, as I said before the break, I ended up breaking that promise. I had had a relationship end a couple of months prior, and it ended, I think it was my own fault mostly, because at that point in my life, I didn't have much relationship experience and I didn't understand what it took to have a healthy relationship. So that relationship had ended, but I cherish it and I learned a lot from that experience. But a couple of months later, I was alone, I was lonely, and as any addict knows, that's a vulnerable point to be in. And I started dipping my toes back into that behavior, not looking at explicit pornography, but simply looking at stimulating images online and rationalizing to myself that it wasn't the same thing, that it didn't count. But that was the beginning of a slippery slope that eventually led me back to hardcore pornography. And that opened that door that I had closed within my own mind. And once open again, it was very difficult to shut it completely. And it took a lot more learning and a lot more willingness to be vulnerable and to ask for help from those in my life in order to overcome that. And I don't regret that now, because I think it makes me a better coach. It makes me better able to help those who are struggling like I did to put porn in their past, to really move on to the next chapter of their lives.
Right, I was just going to ask about that, if whether you sought support from either family, friends, or an institution to help guide you through that process. Were there any resources available for someone like you at that time?
As far as professional resources, I wasn't able to find anyone who knew enough about pornography addiction or porn-induced problems to help me through that. I was using the help of other men who were going through it or had gone through it themselves and were giving their time and advice. I was relying eventually on the people in my life, my family and friends who were close to me. One thing that I ended up doing was installing what we know of as accountability software on my devices. And with that on my devices and my mother and my sister and my best friend helping me out, I could know that if I sought out pornography online, that they would all get a report and they would find out about it. And so that was good motivation for me to stay accountable to my commitment and to know that if I did engage in that behavior, it would not remain a secret. And that was very good at taking a lot of the temptation away because it just was no longer an option for me.
Hang on. So there's a software available. So let's say as no, we know that there are apps that you can block online porn sites as well. But what you're saying, there's a software available as well that if I confess to my wife that I'm addicted to porn and I'm not going to do it again, and she can actually install a device on the computer that can let her know anytime I do a porn search?
Only with your permission, yeah, and only if you help her set it up. And I often recommend against someone's spouse being that accountability partner because that can turn your relationship into like a prison guard and prisoner sort of dynamic, and that can be harmful. But knowing that her knowing that you have maybe a sponsor or a friend or a coach who's helping you do that and keeping you accountable can reassure her and give her that peace of mind that yeah, you're really committed to this journey and you're not just trying to keep it a secret anymore and not just trying to maintain that compulsive behavior in the shadows. And yeah, there are blockers. There's blocker technology available that you can block adult or pornographic websites, but there's always a way around them. There's always a way to deactivate them. And accountability software can help fill a lot of those gaps. And yeah, there are several options available like Ever Accountable, Accountable to You, Covenant Eyes. So yeah, people can explore that option if they like. It's one tool that you can use. It's not something that can immediately solve all your problems, but it's a powerful tool that you can use in building your pornography future.
Now let's look at Relapse. Now you said that you stayed clean. Again, for those who just joining us, you stayed clean when you found out you had a problem. You stayed clean for how long?
Probably 7 or 8 months before I started slipping back and using what I call porn substitutes that society might not label porn, but that I was using them in the same way to get that sexual excitement.
Well, like magazines and pictures and stuff, right?
It was still online, but it would be, like social media, erotic photos, things like that. Maybe stories, erotic stories.
Right. Now, let's say before the relapse, let's say before you got clean, let's say you were looking at porn every night, or let's say 5 nights a week. You take a rest on the weekend or whatever. When the relapse, did it escalate? To say that you did it like, go ahead.
Yeah, so for about a month probably I was using porn substitutes, and then there was a night, I remember very clearly, that something just flipped in my brain, a switch flipped, and all of a sudden using hardcore pornography became a possibility again for me. And I felt like I was jonesing for a drug. Like my heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, I was physically aroused, and I was just pacing around my room for about a half an hour, fighting with myself. And eventually I gave in, and I used, several times that night. And after that, once that door was open, it was very difficult to shut it again. And that's why I say addiction in many ways is lifelong. And that doesn't mean that you're always doomed to have to struggle with urges every day or that you're doomed to relapse. But it does mean that this will always be a part of me. And if I can't just use porn once in a while casually and have it not be a problem, if I open that door again, I will lose control again, and it will bring back a lot of harm into my life. And so that's what lifelong addiction means to me. It means that I can't become complacent. I can't forget how important it is that I stay on the path that I've chosen for myself. And as long as I do that, I'm capable of living a great life, having great relationships. I'm in a relationship now, I have a great sex life, a great love life, and that's what's possible for anybody out there who might think that they're doomed or that they can't heal. I haven't seen a case yet that was hopeless.
Gotcha. That's good to know. And I'm struck by the very real parallels that pornography addiction has to substance addiction. In terms of the introduction phase, the age at which you're introduced, the dependence you have on it, the consequences for your life, and the difficulties that will befall you in recovery. But let's talk a little bit about the societal dynamics when it comes to pornography. You talk a lot about men. What is in terms of your research and your information, what is the ratio of male to female clients, and what is the dynamic? Because to my mind, the sex industry of which pornography is a part is primarily targeting men as consumers of that content or that or those bodies, I should say. So in your experience, what is the ratio, and what does it mean for how we think about and talk about sex in our societies?
Yeah, there are various studies that look at frequency of pornography use across genders, and while the specific numbers are different in each study, it's clear that more men use porn regularly than women do, but there is a very significant minority of women who also use porn regularly and who also develop porn addiction or porn-induced sexual dysfunctions as well. And especially now that the barrier to access is so low, there used to be a social stigma of going into a porn shop and purchasing pornography that a lot of men wouldn't want to do, but more men would do than women would do. But now that the access is so easy, more and more people, young, old, male, female, are developing compulsive issues with it. And the other women that I work with can have, in some ways, greater problems than some of the men, because just the way their female biology works, they might be capable of having more orgasms in a day than most men. And so they can continue using far beyond what the average guy would have been satisfied with and moved on with his day. And they can also develop sexual dysfunctions wherein they become unable to really enjoy sex with a real partner or have an orgasm with their partner without pornography or without a vibrating sex toy.
And this also crosses sexualities as well, because I would imagine that the same may be true for persons who are homosexual, bisexual.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Trans.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that porn is evil inherently or that it's always harmful. There are some people say like, oh well, porn helped me to discover what I'm into, or to help me discover my sexuality. It helped me open up about being a sexual creature. And I'm not saying that that's impossible, but most of the people that I see, of course, because I see the people who have developed problems, their sexuality has often even been twisted by pornography. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that by using porn regularly throughout the years, you're actually changing what you're into because of that process of tolerance and escalation. You're now bored by what used to be so exciting, and you're seeking out new things to see, more exciting or dangerous things to see, and actually changing your own sexual template and bringing those new, more extreme sexual desires into a relationship can make it much more difficult to develop a healthy relationship.
Now, Noah, and folks, if you're just joining us, we're speaking to Mr. Noah Church, who's out there in Oregon, joining us via video. And you can join the conversation on Ion Dependency, I95.5 FM, or Ion Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. And we welcome those of you on YouTube as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Noah, who is this? Well, okay, we'll get to that in a while, Doddridge. Major Jack, sorry. Noah, I don't know if it's connected. Now, some people would look at porn just for the arousal, but then there are those who would look at porn for ensure that they have a happy ending. What's the connection with the two? Does it lead to masturbation, or it goes hand in hand?
Yeah, I would say in at least 95% of people, using porn is paired with masturbation. And I have worked with people who, for maybe, especially when they first were starting to discover porn, maybe they just watched it and didn't know how to masturbate yet, had never masturbated, and so they would just watch it for the excitement before eventually figuring out how to masturbate as well. But yeah, most of the time they are very much linked. But what I work with people on as they're healing is to learn how to separate the two again. And a lot of people that I've worked with maybe have not masturbated without porn in many years or even decades. And rediscovering that, okay, yes, these are separate things. I can choose never to use porn again, but perhaps, I might be capable of masturbating in a healthy way again. It's also a legitimate choice to choose, you know what, I've masturbated enough in my life, and all I want now is to express my sexuality with a partner that I love and abstain from masturbation as well. And that's a perfectly fine choice, but so is, in my opinion, choosing to masturbate in a healthy way and relearning how to masturbate in a way that's not compulsive and won't lead to that slippery slope back to behaviors that are inherently harmful for them.
Yep, I think that's an important point because of the connection between porn and masturbation gets a bad rap, so to speak, but it is and can be a very healthy form of sexual activity for an individual, right?
I believe so, yes, and I think masturbation serves a purpose in many people's lives, and so does fantasy, of helping us figure out for ourselves what kind of partner we're interested in, what kind of sexual experience we're interested in, and exploring that in fantasy and exploring our own bodies. And that, I think, can be a healthy part of someone's sexual development. But when you introduce pornography, everything goes off the rails in a lot of cases.
Now, someone on Major on YouTube asked a question, and he probably joined late, so we'll get to that. If you could answer it again, Noah, what has been his experience with the reaction of his partners to his addiction or to your illness? But maybe we could delve on that. If you ever had a conversation with one of your partners as to why you're not functioning in bed, and how did they treat with it?
Well, the first person I actually talked to in person about my issue with pornography was a new girlfriend, a new partner, right around the time that I discovered what was really going on with me. And I had that conversation with her. We were in a park, we were on a walk together, and I said I had something I wanted to talk to her about. And I said, well, how a lot of young guys, most of them, they grow up using pornography and masturbating to it. And she said, yeah, because that is fairly common knowledge nowadays. And I said, well, I was among that group of people, and I didn't realize until very recently that it was having these effects on me, that it had gotten in the way of being able to be in love and enjoy sex with someone. And I said, you've met me at an interesting time in my life, that I'm going through some changes, and it might be a while before I'm able to be a fully functional, romantic and sexual partner for you. But I'm working on this, and I'm here to talk about it. I'm here to answer your questions if you have them. And I was just as honest and open as I could be about where I was. And she respected that. She respected the courage I showed in being vulnerable and in just telling her the truth. And she was very patient and very loving with me. And yeah, we stayed together and we fell in love. And I eventually screwed it up, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, it's not something that has to doom a budding relationship. If you can own this part of yourself and that person can see that you're genuinely wanting to grow and become a healthier person, that's something that people respect. And a lot of people will admire and want to be there with you for that journey and be patient with you and help you through that.
So what was your as we refer to it in our neck of the woods, in recovery, what was your nuclear blast Oh, you said that TED talk that you attended, right? That was it for you?
Yeah, combined with all of the traumatic sexual experiences I had had, that TED Talk finally connected all the dots, and that was my nuclear blast or light bulb moment that started my real porn-free journey, yes. But for many people I work with, maybe it's that their spouse or partner discovered the extent of their online activity, and now they might be in danger of losing a marriage or losing a relationship that they cherish. Or it might be that they've developed a porn-induced sexual dysfunction and now are feeling sexually broken and want to heal. It might be that they've escalated to extreme pornography or even illegal pornography, and they're fearing legal consequences or losing a job, or any sort of major life consequence like that can be a big cold splash of water in the face that makes people realize, I need to do something about this.
Yeah, I've just spurred on by a comment on our Facebook page. So I would like you to talk about if you've encountered this, where someone's addiction to porn leads to potential criminal behavior, as in watching pornography involving children,
Or watching their daughter while they're bathing, or wanting to bathe their daughter.
those kinds of things. Have you encountered that, and what do you think is the relationship?
Yeah, so I have a lot of answers to that question. So first, with pornography the way it is today, as I mentioned earlier, pornography is largely produced for people who are already desensitized to porn. So it's produced to touch on extreme topics. A lot of pornography now is what I call pseudo incest, where it's like stepbrother or stepmother or stepdaughter, and or things like that, where the people acting in those videos are actually not related, but that sort of transgressional fantasy into something that is illegal or even gross to them is something that desensitized porn users now need to get that extra shot of adrenaline and shot of dopamine in order to get aroused. And so it trains people to sexualize others in their lives, even maybe family members or vulnerable people in their lives. And we know that for people who are already at risk of antisocial behaviors, maybe a young person who's grown up in an abusive environment and who might be likely to bully others or act out violently with their peers, if you introduce pornography into that situation, now they're much more likely to act out sexually on their peers and to sexually abuse others. And it can also be a gateway to people buying sex, to people like building these fantasies up in their mind, and now they're maybe trying to act them out with sex workers and purchase sex illegally. So in all those ways lead to illegal activities. And yes, as we were talking about the tolerance and escalation, people can certainly escalate to illegal forms of pornography as well, like images depicting child sexual abuse or bestiality. These can all be potential outcomes. And I made a video on my channel, my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Noah B.E. Church, maybe last year, featuring a story of someone who had done just that. They had escalated throughout pornography and then were hooked on videos featuring minors and were caught and were sent to prison for several years for that.
No, Noah, this, this is like an onion, right? Once you start peeling, you just continue to peel and peel and peel. Now, are some marriages, from your research and work, marriages and relationships affected in a way that, and let me explain, the man or woman would want to act out what they see on the porn, but their partner is not having it. Have you encountered that situation as well?
Sure. Yeah, and it can lead to people stepping out of that relationship to seek something that they think they need or they think they want, or it can lead to them ending that relationship thinking, oh, we're not sexually compatible. But really, those desires might not be something that they would even have any interest in if not for their pornography habit. And I've seen time and time again that once people do quit using porn, they can heal. Their brain's sensitivity can return, and they can regain excitement just from kissing someone that they're really attracted to, just from intimate contact. and they no longer need or have interest in the more extreme sex acts that they escalated to watching online.
Yes, Nick Randall, we did that at the beginning. We did highlight that Trinidad and Tobago is #1 for porn and in the world. And that research was done. We read that a while ago. Google released that. Now, what people don't know is that once you, especially child pornography, once you download that, or once you start looking at it, you can be caught, especially in your neck of the woods, right? I don't know how our technology is here now, but especially child pornography.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are definitely people out there who are hunting for you if you are downloading or consuming or even worse, distributing that sort of material. And
Right.
yes, there will be real lifelong consequences to that behavior. And some people think that only pedophiles would seek out that content. Pedophile is someone who has a pretty exclusive interest in children sexually. But a lot of that behavior online isn't actually born pedophiles who are searching for that content. It's people who have just desensitized themselves to all forms of legal pornography and just are searching for that thrill. They're hooked on that novelty and that transgressional nature of pornography that now they've pushed themselves to that level of seeking out illegal pornography. When if they'd never started using porn, they never probably would have had a sexual attraction to children or sought out that kind of material.
Exactly.
Okay, yes. We'll give the name of the website in a while, Annette. Don't worry.
No, I wanted to ask Noah as well about how he got into this work of helping others. What propelled you to manage your own problem, but then move on to writing a book and counseling others on this issue? Why was that important to you?
Well, when I was first going through this journey, it was a very powerful experience, and I was astounded by actually linking my behavior with porn to all the problems that it caused in my life. And I was able to see so clearly that the same thing was happening to many of my peers and younger people than me who were growing up under the influence of pornography. And I thought about the years that I had struggled in darkness and ignorance, not finding the help that I needed. And I didn't want that for other people. So I decided I'm going to write a book. And that's the first thing I did is I wrote a book not only about my experience, but about the science behind how pornography use impacts the brain, what recovery looks like, how it's affecting our society, and published that. And then I started creating YouTube videos, talking about my story, answering people's questions, and it evolved from there to becoming a personal coach, working with people around the world who want some guidance, getting out of this porn trap, creating online courses, and now I work with an app company as well. We have a free app for people who are trying to quit porn that will teach you what you need to know and give you some of the tools like porn blockers and accountability in order to start freeing yourself. And that's called Remojo, Remojo. As I said, it's free to use, and you can download it on your smartphone. So yeah, that's how I developed this. And it's not like as a kid I was thinking when I grow up I'm going to help people quit pornography. No. But you go through life and you see an opportunity to do some good, and you make a choice, and that choice has led me to making a career out of helping people break free of this trap.
And do you, we give thanks for that, but do you work with young people as well in terms of
Good question.
counseling them or coaching them on what are the healthy ways to interact with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when their parents are involved, yes. I have worked with younger teens, with their parents involved as well. Most of the time I work with adults, and there are organizations like Culture Reframed that are working more selectively on educating parents and educators in order to educate children about these dangers and avoid them developing the problem in the first place, which I think is very important. And like I mentioned earlier, if if the average age of first use of alcohol or cigarettes was 11, we would have a worldwide outcry. We would say, hey, we need to do something about this. This is not acceptable. And that's exactly what's happening now with pornography. And we need to do something about it. And most countries have laws about not distributing pornography to minors, but those laws are not enforced in most areas of the world.
No, Noah, when we were younger, and let's look at this, right? When we were younger, and I'm putting myself in the shoe here now. Growing up, we had, of course, we started with Playboy magazines, Hustler, and then there was a magazine here that published a lot of pictures of bikini-clad women and scantily clad women. They're no longer they're no longer in existence. They're now defunct. But it was let's say a young man would be very excited. Now we have smartphones. Now we have children have access to phones where they can go directly to the internet and get it. And they now would be really anxious to get to school, to call 2-3 of their boys aside and during their break go look at a sex act, right? So now our children are more exposed to it than we were. Because now they can go directly. You don't have to wait till your father, finish with the Playboy magazine and then take it and go downstairs with it or go in the toilet with it. It's now they can directly access it. How do you ask parents now? How can parents now be? How do we know? How do we know if my child is looking at pornography when he or she is in his whole room? How are they looking at it with their friends and having
children about sex?
And is it and do you think, and this one more question I could add, do you think that sex education should be taught in schools so to counteract that? So you have a handful there. Go ahead.
So my father, like you, grew up in a time where pornography was in the form of magazine or maybe eventually a VHS tape, and he didn't really have a sex talk with me because he said, well, I figured it out on my own and I figured you would too. But that's not the case anymore. Young people aren't figuring it out on their own. Now, if older people, adults in their lives, aren't stepping in to have these important conversations, pornography is showing them what sex is. And pornography is not a good teacher about healthy relationships or healthy sexuality. And we need to be having these talks about sex and porn with our kids, starting at a young age. And it needs to be something that we get more comfortable communicating about, not just in one talk, but they need to feel safe coming to us and asking us questions about sex and porn. And we need to be warning them about the dangers about sex, sure, but also about online sexuality and pornography, because we do the same with other dangers. When I was a kid in school, we were educated about the dangers of alcohol and tobacco, and I never developed problems with those things. But if I had been educated about the dangers of porn, and I knew it could cause sexual dysfunction, it could cause addiction, it could take away from my joy that I felt in my life, maybe it wouldn't have stopped me from ever using porn, but it probably would have greatly reduced how much I used and allowed me to see the problems as they were developing and put a stop to it much sooner. And so, yes, I think it's important that we have these conversations at home, but I also do think that it belongs in sex education that's held in schools as well.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Noah Church out there in Oregon, who's joined us via video call. And you can, if you have any questions for him before we let him go, if you have any questions, please feel free to call us 622-3937 and ask your question. Natasha just posted his website on YouTube and Facebook.
Yes.
So, and we know Trinidad, again, we cannot be in denial about this. All right, we have been ranked number 1 in the world for quite a while for search for free porn on sites. And for those of you just joining us, Natasha could share that a little bit of the statistic with you again.
Yes.
Just share it with them again and hear what parts of Trinidad. Did the pandemic see a rise in this search for porn too, Noah? If you did any research on that?
Yes, yes, it did. And major pornography companies took advantage of that as well. And I think they, for instance, were giving like free premium subscriptions to people in areas most affected by the pandemic. And yeah, we did see a rise in use of pornography during those times. So when people are isolated, when people are cut off from their friends, when people are in stressful circumstances, yeah, they're going to be more likely to turn to porn for a feeling of comfort. But like any other addictive substance or behavior, it's potent enough and stimulating enough to drive out those negative emotions like stress or loneliness in the moment, but it doesn't actually do anything to solve them. And once your brain is clear again, your problems are still there, and because they're going unaddressed, they might even be worse than they were before.
Lovely. Natasha, you want to share? And remember, if you have a question, comment, let's take a call for you, Noah. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to Mr. Church.
Morning.
Mr.
Good morning.
What I need to ask you, if as a child, let us say 11 or 12, where you might have been going through puberty, if you ever had wet dreams, because that's a normal thing, you know, with young men to start having wet dreams at this early age.
Right.
And they do not have the mother or the father to consult with to tell them what to do or how to deal with it, because that is a normal part of puberty.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
11-year-old could impregnate a child because he has already reached that stage of development. So I don't know. I want to give somebody a suggestion. I'll call back again. If he ever started with wet dreams and how he dealt with it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Yvonne.
622-3937. No, you want to take that one first before we take another call?
Sure. Yeah. So wet dreams or nocturnal emissions are when, while you're asleep, a man would ejaculate, and it might be paired with a dream that's sexual or arousing, or it might not. He might just wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning and say, "Oh, like I feel wet down there. I've ejaculated." And it's some people, it's common for them. Other people, it's not common. For me, I never experienced one until after I stopped using porn. Because if you're masturbating frequently, you're less likely to experience this.
Right.
And I think I've had like 2 in my life, and they were both as an adult after I quit using pornography because I was no longer ejaculating frequently in my waking life. It's something that is a normal part of biology, and it's not something to worry about. Yeah, if it's happening to you, just clean yourself up, get a new pair of underwear, and move on with your life.
No. Again, you know, it's very important for how do we get around this? Because you in a marriage. Let's take a call. 622-3937. Good morning.
Discussion, especially for young people. And could I add that I think sometimes unknowingly the families and also the school system are not accounting for the stressful lifestyle, the high stress that youngsters go through, that sometimes not let them use technology or everything to do with sexuality and drinking and substance abuse, because they talk about the stress they're feeling. So if we as adults in our societies could work at lowering some kind of the stress. I know they're worried about schoolwork and their grades and everything, but when they're under enormous stress, it also fuels a kind of behavior that we don't want.
Yeah.
I am for school teaching sexuality, but I have a concern because I don't even think some adults on the compound really understand their own. So sometimes we use subjects in a way, we're having a difficulty with regular subjects, and we use something as important as sexuality or religion or whatever in a way that's sometimes not healthy because we too, the adults who are trying to teach it, have a problem. So I'd like to encourage that, yes, we want a more healthy discussion on sex for our children, but we have to be assured that adults know the way. But more than that, let's look at the stress level our children exist on in these islands.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
for
ma'am.
that contribution.
Yeah, well said.
Yep.
622-3937, good morning.
Morning, God. Morning.
Morning.
God, I'm just dripping for 1 second because I have a problem. And the second is about this. The guy you had in the pre-prostrate program Sunday ago, what's his number, please? Could you help me?
Oh, Dr. Pottinger.
Yes, a doctor was talking.
Hold on
Yeah.
1 second. I will, if you continue listening, I'll share the number before we leave, yeah? So keep listening.
Hello, 622-3937. So Noah, you know, this is a kind of touch and go situation, huh? Because which man or out there woman could say that somebody taught them, if it's their parents or whoever, how to have sex and
about sex,
and how to please somebody, and you know, all of these things. Now, as I said, this is a kind of catch-22. Now, when one looks at porn, you see some of those things, but is the ability to differentiate reality from fake. That's the problem right there. Because as I said, my father never taught me how to please a woman. So at some point in time I had to look at porn. But how do we separate the two?
Well, if you're looking at porn to learn how to have sex is like watching The Fast and the Furious to learn how to drive.
True.
It's not realistic. They're performers. It's designed to be dramatic for the camera. It's not designed to teach you how to actually do this thing. And we see real life examples of people driving safely all around us all the time. So that's not that big of an issue to watch The Fast and the Furious. People aren't going to go walk away and try to drive their car into outer space or whatever. But with pornography, people don't see examples of what healthy, realistic sexuality actually looks like. So they might believe, okay, this is what I'm seeing in porn. That's what I should be trying to imitate in my real life. And if you try to do that, and you try to act like a porn performer in bed, it's probably not going to go the way that you imagine. And it's probably not going to feel as good for you as you imagine, because you know what's depicted on the screen is meant for dramatic camera capture. It's not meant for the pleasure of the participants.
Okay.
Yep, precisely.
So folks, we have to let Trevor go, and we want to thank him for his time.
Trevor Noah.
Trevor. Oh shucks, I said Trevor. How the hell I come up with Trevor? No, it's Noah Church, not Trevor Noah, folks. Noah Church. And Trevor, Noah, we want to thank you so much for spending the time with us this morning.
Yes,
and we posted your websites on YouTube and Facebook. So those of you who are secretly battling with this addiction, please visit his website and you will get to learn more and how you can overcome, and maybe just might save your marriage or your relationship or help you to understand some things about yourself. So
before you go, do you have any parting words for us, Noah?
Yes, Noah.
What would you like our audience to go away with?
Only that the most important first step is education and is knowledge. And first you have to educate yourself before you can help others. But that's how we change society for the better. And we're never going to be able to do that if we don't start overcoming the taboos and the embarrassment and start really learning what the fact of the matter is and start having these conversations with the people that we care about. And if you're afraid to start those conversations in your life, that's understandable, but you never know who you might be helping, who you might be offering a helping hand to or a shining light to, who is going to greatly appreciate you pushing outside your comfort zone to start having these conversations with the people in your life.
So there's nothing wrong with a father or a mother going to a son or daughter and ask, are you looking at porn? And let's talk about it.
Yeah, and of course you want to approach that in a way that's not shaming or blaming.
Yes.
And you want your kid to feel safe, talking to you about these things and coming to you with questions. And if you're looking for guidance on that, I recommend searching online for Culture Reframed. They're an organization that help parents and teachers learn how to have these conversations with young people.
All right.
Let me leave you with this comment. Somebody just said, I love porn for the exciting
postural
variations my wife have been able to experiment with. So is it that some couples are benefiting from looking at porn, Noah?
If they do it together, I suppose.
Like I said before, I'm not going to say that pornography universally has negative impacts. If you're really looking at it as like you already have a basis of a healthy sex life and a healthy relationship, and you're looking at it like, oh, maybe this is something new we could try. I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing. But what I'm mostly talking about is people who aren't looking at it for educational purposes to then take into their relationship. They're masturbating to it, they're compulsive about it, and they're escalating in their use of pornography. And especially if you're using it before you ever have a foundation of knowing what real love and real sex feels like, you're setting yourself up for problems.
All right, my brother. So thank you so much. Let's take that one before. Hello, good
Good
morning. Morning.
Hello.
You also the posted that the guys information online, but I'm listening over the radio, so I won't be able to see it.
All right.
All right. Just do a search for Noah Church on Google or YouTube, and you'll find his channel. It's easy to find.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noah, Noah Church, and you will find him directly.
Yeah.
Godspeed, my brother. Thank you once again for being with us, and we will keep in touch with you as we go along. Let's see if Trinidad and Tobago will maintain its #1 ranking, or some country will bowl us out sooner or later. All right, but thanks again, Noah Church. And
My pleasure, and I wish you best luck in lowering your ranking.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Take care. I would prefer we have a ranking in something else, not this. But again,
we are a very conservative society, and our attitudes towards sex are not healthy at all in this country, at all. So it's no surprise to me that we are leading in this area of
Hello, good morning.
Internet.
Good morning, God.
Morning.
This is what I call diversification.
Diversification.
Yes, this morning.
Okay.
Yes.
Really important and healthy, because we probably look at when these programs, you have these programs like the trafficking, the drugs, the what, but this is so important for family life. A lot of married people are in trouble because they complain that the husband, when at night he goes into the room with the computer and they don't have any time for them and that kind of thing. And plus with God, when you work with children, like the young boys, you would be able to educate them as to how to challenge the early feelings when they're going through puberty. Now, not every parent could afford to get them involved in sports where they could delay that gratification. If they're involved in sports and that kind of thing, they don't have that kind of time to go into that area, So they will delay the gratification for longer. But if you're poor and you watch something and your hormones start to race and whatever, it's a normal thing happening to you. You understand?
Yes.
So that you could do a good job by helping to educate them, okay?
I'll try my best. Thank you very much, Yvonne.
Yes.
Take care. And that's it. So let's go to a break, folks. And once again, we thank Noah Church for joining us this morning, and we hope that you learned something from his experience and what he had to say here this morning. So let's go to a break. We'll be back.
What if you can make a difference in the life of a child by simply taking one step? This November, let's shine once more at Guardian Group's Shine Charity 5K and 10K Walk and Run. And together, we can help secure hope for children most in need. Join us on Saturday, 26 November, Nelson Mandela Park. Race time, 4:25 p.m. Register now at www.runtoshine.com. And together, let's shine. Guardian Group. Live easy.
Hi, babe.
Hey, how you? Good morning.
You busy?
Not for you, how could I assist?
Okay, we have a job for you.
Job? What kind of job is that?
Morning, the boss. You have a small work for you, a little 5,000. What you do, pick up some girls, drop them a room by the boss for you. You're making a quick 5,000.
Girls, boss. What is this about?
Listen to me now. It's a little small work. You reach in Toko, pick up some girls, drop them a Rima. 5,000.
That sounding like human trafficking. Are you trying to set me up or what? Partner, you know the penalty for human trafficking? Look, I gone now. Excuse me, please.
Do you know that human trafficking is considered a serious crime in Trinidad and Tobago and is punishable by law under the Trafficking in Persons Act Chapter 1210 or the TIPS Act? The penalties for recruiting, receiving, transporting, or housing a victim of human trafficking are a minimum of 15 years for trafficking adults and a fine of $500,000, a minimum of 20 years for trafficking children and a fine of $1 million, a fine of $350,000 and imprisonment for 12 years for transporting a person within or across TT borders for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution, a fine of $400,000 and imprisonment for 15 years for persons who receive a financial or other benefit from tips, a fine of $500,000 and imprisonment for 20 years for any person who receives a financial or other benefits from trafficking children, an additional 15 years imprisonment for any trafficker who uses or threatens to use a dangerous weapon on a victim, or where the victim suffers serious bodily harm, or the victim contracts a life-threatening illness or is sexually assaulted, or if the trafficker abuses his power as someone entrusted with the care or supervision of a child victim. Imprisonment for 25 years for any member of the Defense or Protective Services or any official or public officer having the powers of arrest who commits an offense. Court can order forfeiture of convicted trafficker's property. A company can be fined $5 million for engaging in tips.
We are the counter-trafficking unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Some of us like to play games of chance, but remember, gaming should be fun, so don't get carried away. Play for a prize, but don't pay the price. Play for fun, but never for keeps. Play smart, but never play all. Winning isn't everything. If you or someone you know needs help, call our gambling addiction hotlines. Rebirth House 24-hour hotline 466-3146 or Serenity Place Empowerment Center for Women 794-7980. An initiative of NLCB and Eye on Dependency.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us, folks. And we thank Mr. Noah Church once again for being with us this morning. We were trying to get in touch with Kenneth Surat, but for some reason not getting him. So I just want to... Shoban, I just sent you a video. See if you can stick that in for me, please. Now, you know I always ambush you with these from time to time, so I'm sorry about that. But no, is he shooting at the car park yesterday? Thank God they didn't show the man getting shot. But I want to raise that issue this morning before we wrap up. But the Blind Welfare Association has a walk coming up, Walk for Sight 2020 on Sunday, 16 October. So we ask you all to go out and support that, right? Because it's really important. You got him? All right, let's talk to Mr. Surat quickly before we go to that video. Kenneth Surat, morning. You all have a walk
Good
coming
morning,
up.
Mr. God. Good morning, Trinidad.
Morning. You all have a walk coming up on the 16th of October. Tell us about that.
Oh, yes.
Walk for sight.
Okay. This year, 2022, the world is celebrating World Sight Day on Tuesday. That is the official day. But the Blind Welfare Association is commemorating that day on the 16th of October with a walk around the savannah starting by the grandstand. And we're going around the savannah and coming back. And its registration starts at 6 a.m. The walk starts at 7. You have some nice prizes to win. I am trying to compete for the one who's going to finish the race last because I'm not so fit. So I hope nobody comes to challenge me for that prize. And the key thing is we are promoting preventable blindness. Yes. Because 80% of all blindness is preventable. And that is like glaucoma, cataract, and diabetic retinopathy. So come and help us to prevent blindness because we know when someone goes blind, it's a real massive problem, a social problem, an economic problem. So let us try and prevent avoidable blindness so that people don't go blind and make them more aware. So come and join us in this walk and have some fun.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the walk itself. How many years has it been on? And
well, previously this walk was under the head and the World Sight Day Committee,
right.
And that was many years. And their term came to an end in 2020. So the Blind Welfare Association decided to continue. We didn't have any last year because of the COVID and so on. So, but we are back on track, and we want people to come back out and keep, be a part of this work to help prevent avoidable blindness.
Yes, prevention always better than cure. Could you remind us again about the date and how people could get more information, where we can find more info?
Okay, you can call my number 718-6373 or 718-4727 for additional information. Listen to this radio station also because this radio station, they've been helping us a lot. I-95.5 all the years. Anything we ask I-95 to do, they're always willing to do it for us. And also come and register on the day. Okay. Registration starts at 6 a.m. It's just $20.20. So come and register with us and walk and let us have fun. And on the day we will also be doing glaucoma testing, sugar testing. So come on the day and have your sugar tested, get your blood pressure tested, and also glaucoma testing will be taking place.
Perfect.
Kenneth Surat, thank you very much for that, man.
Thank you very much, God, for this opportunity to share the good news.
You're welcome, man. And you all the best.
Be safe.
Yes. You too, Take care.
Okay, God, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Walk for Sight on the 16th of October 2022. Again, the numbers to call 718-6373 or 718-4727 for more information. Registration starts at 6 a.m. and have a nice little walk and get your pressure and your blood sugar tested at the same time.
Right.
Walk for Sight.
Now, Trinidad and Tobago, we have a problem. And a country that is, just like an addict in denial, I think Trinidad and Tobago is in denial. And I'm seeing a lot of me when I was on crack cocaine in Trinidad and Tobago. We are in denial and we continue to cover up and pretend that it don't exist. One of our big problems in Trinidad and Tobago right now is anger and the inability to solve problems without violence. We've lost it. And I'm talking about from top to bottom. I'm not making this up. Some people now using the gun. There are those who using the pen. For those of you who didn't see the video of that latest shooting at the car park and the grocery
in
Coquet, a place I grew up, you will tell me, no, I listened to Oscar this morning and it's a relative of his. Okay. But then we waiting to
of his, the victim?
The victim.
Okay.
And we waiting to hear the full story of it.
Yes.
Because when we hear
that came out
was for the parking lot.
Yes.
Now, listen to me carefully, right? Had I been in the position of that man who was in the car, I would have been home with my wife this morning listening to this program. You know why? Because we somehow have lost the ability to see the domino effect with a harsh word or a response. We've lost that for some reason. So the only way now we could solve a problem is by fighting, chopping, or shooting. Or going and get a gun and come back and shoot you because you diss me. Now, okay. First of all, Natasha, if she's driving or I driving, and I decide, it never happened before, but I know if I go to park in a handicap parking spot, she will tell me about it and would not let me do that at all. She would quarrel with me for doing that. Now, I go on and park in somebody else's business place. My wife parked there and she ran across the road to get food.
I will not do that. I will not allow you to do that.
If the security guard comes and tells me, I'm in the passenger seat, hey, boss man, X, Y, and Z, you can't stay here, leave now. Or, I could either beg for a blight or say, boss, you're right. I go on. And call my wife and say, look, I'm making the block because they moved me from the grocery parking lot. That could have happened, right? Now, you're hearing that the guy was smoking weed. In public as well. Now, smoking weed in your car, even though you're in a parking spot, even in your car, it's still smoking in public. Now, you have children in the car too. So, you're smoking weed with children in the car. And but the security doing his job. The security has a job to do. Maybe he a little hothead, but he has a job to do.
I find blaming the victim a little bit too much, but carry on.
No, but what I'm saying,
he can't speak for himself,
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Natasha.
I agree with what you're saying.
What I'm saying though is that could not have escalated to that point, because if I am parking in somebody else's business place and the security comes to say to me, boss, you cannot stay here, the boss will get harassed, I will say, right, partner, no problem. Instead of giving him attitude, remember, he has a job to do.
Yes.
Right? And I would have drove out of the parking lot, say to Natasha, hey, I'm making the block because, they're moving from the parking spot. I am wrong already because I'm parking in somebody else's business place. That is one. Two, if it was correct, the guy was smoking weed in public with children in the car. Now, how irresponsible is that? And yet, when this guard told you about what you're wrong about, you came out, according to the story, to accost the guard. Look at the video. Shortman, show this video and show what this resulted in. Now, a mother is left with children alone, and security guard could end up in problems too. Yes. Now, what we have here is I just have volume. So what we have here is this scuffle going on here right now, right? Security guard takes out his gun, bow, man dead. Show it again. Show it again, short man. Put up the volume.
I don't think the people looking on had any idea of what was about to happen.
Okay. One more time.
And nobody tried to intervene. It's like nobody's saying, "Oh, you cool it now." God.
Pero ¿qué pasó? ¿Por qué están peleando?
What's lack of dialogue could do? Look at this.
Nobody is saying to any either.
And people just stand up and watching somebody recording with their phone.
Oh my God.
Pero ¿qué pasó? ¿Por qué están peleando?
This man has a family. You need to stop. Okay, can we?
Right.
This is enough. It's enough.
Okay, good. Now, let me ask the question again. Why did it have to reach to this? Why? Is it that we have lost the ability to settle arguments by just, by coming to terms with the fact, look, I wrong, yes, I'm sorry. And why does it have to come out and confront the security guard? Why? And this is, I was telling Natasha, yesterday I had an experience with a little boy. And the boy no older than 14, and sometimes, people say young people now different. Is it that young people don't respect adults anymore? Because, and I don't blame him totally, because he came to cut grass next to me, Right? And I'm not calling any names, I don't want name, but I'm just showing you how I de-escalated a situation when I could have caused a neighborhood war. Because the young man just show up with the waka and gas. No protective gear, no blower, no nothing. And then telling me, you're moving your car. That's a young man speaking to me. Folks, what I did, I said, look, I don't want nobody say I prevented the young man from making $1. I put the cars outside in the road. He has no canvas to cover the cars, none to put on the fence to protect our property.
No.
So when he starts cutting the grass coming over in our garage, if you see grass. And this boy ain't no pro, he's a little fella now trying a thing, right? So I asked him, I stopped him, I said, you seen what going on here, right? He said, yeah. I said, so how that supposed to, our clean that now? Yeah, sweep it. I say, so when you finish, you come in and sweep it. You want me to? That was the response, you know. Now, what I was supposed to do from there, folk, not jump the fence and let that little boy a clout. No, I didn't do that. I said, partner, you fix up now. Go ahead. But I recorded it. Because you see, he's not a professional. There are professional guys who come to do the landscaping around the area. They would have protective gear. But you send your son out without a blower, without protective equipment for people's property. You only looking for trouble, madam. Because one of these days he's going to catch a stone. And it's going to fly left, right, or center and damage somebody's property. And it will cost you more. So, what I did, I say, young man, you fix up now. Go ahead. And I just protected ourselves and property till he was done. And I moved on. I had to sweep my own yard. Now, that is what causes war. Why can't we prevent war rather than walking into it? Why? And it breaks my heart to see that this a little boy talking to me like I see partner and asking me, so you want me to sweep it? And he put in the grass in my yard. No.
Imagine that.
No, another.
That could have ended different.
But it could have ended differently.
Yeah,
I'm saying, and then the friends would have come in front of my house now to challenge me.
Yes.
Right? Because I could have run him. I could have retaliated. I could have responded in an aggressive manner. But I was just showing you all what I did to de-escalate that situation. There was another instance with the neighbor on the next side. So a guy was doing some handiwork in our yard some Christmases ago. He painted the top of the wall. Now this is about a 4-foot wall, people with a 1-inch, with a 6-inch top, right? He painted that in the color he painted our wall with. The lady who was living there at the time came out and started ball and carrying like the boy tried to invade the home. People come and nearly rough him up. His neighbor across the road had to save him from a cocktail for painting a wall. Now here's what she did. When the paint was dried, she called her son. The son came and he painted over in green. Now what I was supposed to do, wait till that dry and go and paint it back over in blue. And then he would have come and paint it over in green. And then I would have go back and paint it over in blue. That's a war start right there, right?
Instead of having a conversation with us about what to do, what color should we put it in? Have a conversation, huh?
I said to Natasha, Natasha, me ain't touching that. Leave it alone. Leave it in green. She dead and left the wall right there.
Correct.
But I'm just saying again, why have we lost the ability to de-escalate? Look at that situation in the supermarket. Look at that. It's a perfect example.
Yeah. But somebody, even if the gentleman was agitated, whether he was smoking weed or not, let's take that out of the equation. When he was told by the security officer what to do, we don't know if he told him he could stay there. If he told him you have to leave now. If he told him he was armed. We don't know. All we know is that the both of them were in a scuffle outside the vehicle. That is all we know, because we weren't there.
Yeah.
And the way that encounter ended up, to me, did not require somebody to end up dead.
No, it shouldn't reach to that. His name is Noah Church, Annette. Noah Church.
That should not be. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that what is coming to my mind now, and I think the conversation that we need to be having now about this is, one, how to de-escalate conflict resolution. That's the term that we like to use.
We've lost that ability, boy.
That is actually a real thing. that people need to learn how to do? How to
Conflict
resolve
resolution.
conflict? One.
Yes. See it going and happen and try and prevent it.
Correct. Two, can we talk about violence between men in this country and how irrational and unnecessary it often is? Violence between and among men. Why are men not talking about this? Because you are destroying families and you're destroying yourselves in the process. And three, what does justice look like in this situation? Yes, somebody has to be punished and sent to prison. But at the end of the day, who is going to step in the gap? Is there going to be a restorative justice approach to this? Is the wife going to be able to speak to this gentleman who shot her husband and explain to him how this affected her? Are the children going to be able to face this man and explain to them how this is going to affect their lives? Is this man going to be able to explain to this mother and her children why he did what he did? That is, to me, what restorative justice is all about.
Right.
About healing.
Right. But again, could it have been prevented? How? If I'm a hothead, then let's take a call, Gary. Hello, good morning. Hello?
Hello, God.
Good morning.
Good morning, God and Natasha.
Morning, ma'am.
Zina here.
Hey, what's happening?
I hear my voice.
No, we recognize your voice.
But
Yes.
I locked on every Sunday up till last week when I had the program on my momsy.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I locked on all the time. But you see, this I don't have my regular phone. Since the thieves went away with the cable, you understand? I am one of those suffering. So I don't call as often. You know, this is my computer phone. Let me tell you something. This one here tickled me, I went inside by the computer to get my phone. I say, here what? I blame... No, I wasn't there. I don't know what transpired, but my problem is this. Adults need to behave and show examples to their children. The children were in the car. All you had to do is to obey the instructions because the man is there lawfully to do his duty.
Yeah.
You know what? Why you want to argue with the man and show your children in the car
Thank you.
that you want to disobey lawful instructions?
Thank you.
And you know, I went to something in Arima a few years ago, and there was pan in the street, and the bands were coming down. The judges sitting down there on that tent. So I was standing up there, right there next to the tent, there, enjoying the situation. And there was a guy organizing and telling people, don't pass in the street because the band's coming. Pass behind the where the people standing up. If you want to go over the street or go behind or go down the street, go around the people and get your clearing. A man coming with his son. The man stop him. Well, I pass in here. The man say, you cannot pass here. He just grab onto the son hand. Say, you know what? Well, I pass in here. Come, son, give me a hand. Got the hand. And he pass in front of it and go on. I say, now you see how adults, some of them, don't show example to their children. I call that not showing example to your children. You understand?
Yes, my
but
dear.
you argue in the first place and you're arguing and then you come out the car. Now, I'm saying it is very unfortunate because the guard now has a lot of questions to answer. But why you want to come out now to look for fight? They're too hot tempered. They have to calm themselves and teach the children how to, you would resolve a conflict.
Thank you very much, Zina.
Yes.
Thanks, love.
Thank you.
You know, there was a video that circulated a couple years ago in New York, in America, where a young lady parked in a handicapped parking spot in by 7-Eleven, something like that. And the husband again was in the car. She went inside. An old man came out and told him, you can't park here, what are you doing? You're in a handicapped parking spot. The man come out and cuffed down the old man. The old man pulled out the piece and put him to sleep. Now, there were people who supported the man and who was against the old man for what he did, and the old man this and that. I said, but why are you hitting the man?
The old man was white and the dead man was black.
The old man, yes, because of that. But the old man wasn't wrong. He was pulling them off for parking in the handicapped parking spot. Move out of the spot and end the fight. Don't start a fight. And this is the problem we having in Trinidad and Tobago. Nobody wants to walk away. Everybody wants to show my penis bigger than yours, and you can't talk to me like that. And listen.
That's what you call toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
That's what you call that.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Garth and Natasha.
Morning.
Tash, accept my sympathy, although it's a while.
Thank you.
And here.
Thank you.
Morning, Ann.
Nice to hear you.
Okay. Garth, there's a problem that is developing in Park Citizen Bank in Park Street and Port of Spain. There are two security there that give blind people a lot of problems. From the time you come, how you can come here? What you doing here? And you're blind. Or we are alone.
Yes.
And fight already wrestle with one of the blind guys. I don't want to call no name.
Fight with a blind guy?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
I can call the name, but I don't want to do it.
You fought with a blind person.
A blind man fighting
See what I mean?
with him. And all the workers at that bank know how the security is treating blind people. I had the experience.
Which bank is this?
Ball, Park Street.
For Citizens Park Street.
Yes, I start a ball. I
Yeah.
said, all you cannot help, call somebody in charge, bring the manager. All my body started shake up. And somebody came to me and I hear them saying, oh God, that has really get the blind people trouble, boy. And nobody not making a report. So if I can try something to help us, please.
Yes, we have a
Because
couple of...
the gun could have go off, with that blind man.
But of
And you
course,
see what would have happened.
anything can
Yeah.
All
happen.
right?
We have a couple of programs coming up with the blind communities. Don't worry, we'll discuss that. Because
All right.
there's another thing.
All right.
I saw a vehicle from one of the arms of law enforcement parking in a handicap parking spot. You even stand by Peaks there in Kokori there, you see it every single day.
Yes.
Big, able-bodied, strong, hard-back people would park in the handicap parking spot and come out. And you tell them anything, they curse you upside down. We mad. Something is going on in Trinidad and Tobago that I cannot wrap my mind around, but I know we're in denial.
Got to be.
Good morning.
Good morning, God.
Morning.
And Natasha.
Morning.
As usual, you all are on top of things and are doing a very wonderful job, I wondered the other day why they didn't give you one of these awards. You all should have been included in these awards. But suffice it to say, your time will come. However, what I want to say this morning is that, is it possible that it is the diet we're having for people nowadays that are causing this kind of behavior? The food we eat,
The food we eat. I've heard about that, I've heard people discuss that,
theory is around.
That theory is around, especially the fast food.
Fast food and the rotten meat we eat.
Yes.
And the food and that is, we have us thinking like animals.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't know what is it, but we not. As I said, we in denial. We're pretending it doesn't exist.
Well, that is it. And these people profiting. They don't care about society. They sell this stuff, and and you sick because these things have us sick. It's a mental disease. It's a mental disorder.
Yeah.
Yes.
But thank you, my friend. Thank you very much for your observation. And hello. Morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Natasha and guys.
Morning.
Well, just now, Bawani might be able to file a class action against KFC for some murder somebody committed and say, well, this boy used to eat one set of KFC growing up, so KFC was culpable for the murder. But I think that you and Natasha, your outreach as far as implausibilities concerning that shocking murder by the guard, you all are going too far. I don't know if eventually you might stop and say that they shouldn't have stopped there, or the wife should have cooked food home or something. We're going too far, almost into the ridiculous.
No, my friend. I'm sorry. No, I have to stop you there. No, I'm not entertaining this.
Why is it ridiculous
We
to
said it.
assume
We spoke in a context. The context is our ability to stop these things from happening. You just joined the conversation probably midway and think that's what we are discussing. Why is it that we are so angry, and why can't we walk away and sense and smell conflict before it happens. Again, if and Gardner just posted anything here, maybe he couldn't drive. Well, okay, then run across the road and call your wife. Simple.
She was waiting for the food.
She was waiting for food, but she said she came back and she saw them arguing. Run across the road. If you can't drive, tell the security guard, there's nothing more that make a security guard feel good than you respect him and show him, hey, listen, hold on. Let me just run across the road and call her. You're right. We park in your spot, in your business place spot, and we have no right to. Let me run. Why he couldn't do that? Why couldn't he have done that? You tell him about why should I cook food home and don't go down that.
We ain't going so far
Pure
back
road with
either.
me now, boss.
This is a real and present situation that a lot of people are faced with. If you are in a disagreement with someone, we have to know how to resolve it.
De-escalate.
And de-escalate the
Good morning.
situation. That's a basic,
Yeah,
adult skill that
You
everybody
understand?
should have.
Police pull over somebody. Which is you asking me for? Why ain't going to catch them bandits and them out there instead of asking? You looking for your foolishness? Hush your mouth.
Quickly.
Morning, God.
Morning.
Natasha. Commemorations. God, if I'm in school of hard knocks, forget that. What are you trying to tell people? Emotional intelligence. People are angry. People don't know how to resolve situations. Any little disagreement, they go into innuendo and vacillation and rumors. And when they could know, they could seek to get the facts and to resolve things. And that situation with the blind person is a microcosm of the society in general. And you see, you won't understand it. God, you will understand where you came from. Right? It's a lack of respect. And the tone has to be set at the top. And people are who in authority and who in charge. Because what people don't understand, a society is built on how you treat your elderly, your animals, your disabled, and your children. And one can't go without the other. Right? And that's the problem. And that you will always have that. When you deal with ministries, God, for disabled, you will see the behavior and the attitude of the workers there. Because the tone is not set from the top. So I'll leave it there because it's a short time. For commemorations again, I forget that guy now.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Thanks a lot. Now, let me leave all over this. And look how people misunderstand here. And according to the least people just vote, Warrell. Here, Warrell. Bottom line, unreasonable use of force. God, once more, you are overworking your emotionalism. That's a word. The guard has to be charged with manslaughter. Oh, you know that. Gross unreasonable force was used by the guard. Listen, son, we're not even going there. What we spoke about is de-escalation before it gets to that. That is what we have lost the ability to do because everybody wants to show their penis bigger than the other person own. Right. You can't talk to me like that. You can't diss me in front of your children and I'm going to come for you and you're foolish. That is what we're talking about. We're not talking about how we're going to turn out. We're talking about it could have been prevented.
Yes.
Prevention. That's what we do here on our Dependency. Talk to your child about drug use. Prevent them from becoming addicted. Folks, this has been a very informative program. Thank you very much. Emotional in some sense, but this is what it's all about. News up next. Natasha, thanks once again. Yes. Gary, thank you. Shortman, thank you. News up next with Kyle Saunders at 12.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the most influential name in radio, I-95.